This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bullspend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic. I am your host, Cathy Hackl. This is the podcast where we talk about technology, innovation, artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, EVs, and everything in between. And joined, as always, by my co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, how is everything in Portland?
Portland's fine. Portland is fine. Life in general has been, I feel like, a bit chaotic. I've learned some really interesting lessons in the last couple of days.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I can't wait to hear about it because we're going to get deep into why you're going through some chaos, and it has to do with Nintendo. But
yes,
let me tell you first about my weekend. I went to New York for the Artist in the Machine AI Summit, AI and Creativity Summit.
I want to go on record here. You said you weren't traveling. Like 2 episodes ago, you said you were not traveling for like 3 months or something crazy like that.
No, it was 10 days. I
10
made
days.
9.
You made it 9. You made it. I win.
You win. I don't know what you win, but you win prizes. Yes. But I went to New York and I moved the trip up one day. So yes, you're right. You were right. And you hit it on the money.
You couldn't do it.
I'll buy you a cocktail next time I see you. But so yeah, I went to the Artist in the Machine AI Creativity Summit in New York, which was really fantastic. I saw lots of friends there from Meow Wolf and just a lot of different speakers, ran into some amazing folks. So
Meow Wolf is having like was this particular event about their installation going to New York, or they just happened to also be there? Because I know that they've got this big thing.
They were speaking. So Vince, one of their co-founders, was speaking, and it was nice to hear kind of their vision for Meow Wolf, which you and I are big fans of. So
I'm right in thinking that they're opening like a New York
Yeah, they're opening
version,
in New
right?
York.
Yeah.
In New York. So, and yeah, I mean, they have their space in New Mexico and Vegas. They're going to open in New York. And I think another location. I'm not sure if they've made that public or not, but I won't mention it. Sounds good. And then I spent the weekend at Esther Perel's Sessions Live event called Mating in Meta Crisis. It's really an event for like therapists and coaches, but there were a lot of us there that weren't therapists and coaches. And the first half of the first day was all focused on technology, obviously AI. Huge conversation around therapists and coaches because so many people, and there's lists that say, what are people using AI for? Many of them are using it for therapy, coaching, or kind of, using them as a sounding board.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit because I've had people tell me this as well. And I've got some friends who are professional therapists, and they've had questions about AI because it is this communicative tool on some level. And there are studies coming out currently that Gen Z and younger are having a really hard time disassociating the fact that AI that they're talking to isn't really sentient.
Yeah.
Which is just freaking terrifying. That's a different conversation. But from that experience, what was the overall consensus?
I mean, I think the consensus, I think there's a level of fear. I would say a level of fear around if people are finding so much use for these chatbots, like what happens with us? But then there's also a push within therapists to not do so much. Well, at least what I heard and what I could gather was a push of not doing so much Zoom therapy and doing more in person, getting back in person.
Yes.
In the office. Not that you have to get back in the office full time, but kind of moving. Because some of the people there, like when Esther asked, "Who are you? Who are you here? Are only doing virtual?" And there was like a big amount of people. So conversation about getting back into human to human. So some things there. Definitely, I had some great conversations. I'm working on a few potential AI and mental health. Let's say AI and emotional recovery ideas and startups that I'm pitching right now to get some funding for. So we'll see. We'll see if that develops. But yeah, I think that there was that apprehension. And definitely the younger people thinking through that. One of the panels on stage was the CEO of Hinge, and then Cheryl Kimmer's Burkle right now. I think that's her name. I'll find it right now. But she's out of MIT doing amazing research on AI and relationships. And she talked about how people are thinking about, about are they going to date an AI in the future? Or some people already are. Right?
Are they? I mean, like, okay, I know that they've convinced themselves they might in their own mind.
In their mind they are. The chatbot's not, the chatbot's just spitting out answers. It's not really dating them. So,
and I think this is what concerns me, because like AI in general, especially like OpenAI that I've noticed, ChatGPT, it's almost got like a prerequisite to just try to make the user happy.
Yeah.
So there's very little pushback. If you're asking it a question, am I in the right, or is this other person in this other person's in the wrong? You will always be in the right. It will find a way to manipulate its answer. And this concerns me as to finding out like Gen Z, Gen Alpha are getting weirdly confused, because that means that there is an artificial intelligence that they consider actually intelligent that may be giving them partially good information, but with none of the pushback of like, yo, this is
none of the reality of humanity.
Right. Like maybe you're in the wrong in this. It won't, I'm not going to say it won't, but it does seem like it usually pushes you towards the conclusion you're looking for.
They're made to be agreeable.
Yes.
You've got to ask them to not be agreeable, right? Or to present you two positions. Like, because I've done that before. I've taken a text and put it in there and said, is this person being manipulative, right? Ask, does this sound like am I being gaslighted?
I wasn't being manipulative, Cathy. I wasn't.
You know it's about you, right? We must do the podcast at this time or about this subject. But no, I will be like, is this gaslighting or is this manipulative? And sometimes I'll be like, no, but then I'm like, I'll push it further and be like, yes, you're right. So it is made to be agreeable in some ways. So sometimes, I think if you want the model to be a little bit more, not confrontational, but present you both perspectives, you have to tell it to do that.
Right. And this is where, like, as I hear people talk about like the therapy side of it and this emotional support systems, one of the good things about therapy is not only like finding out if there's something that you're correct about, but also if there's something that you're incorrect about. And I do get really concerned, especially in the back of my mind. We all know over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, like even online therapists, I'm not talking about Zoom therapy, but I'm talking about like big corporations that are basically just setting up chat systems and they're calling themselves therapy. Some of it pretty questionable. If they're not pushing towards AI, I would be shocked. But if that's the case, then there's just like this robot that is predispositioned to agree with you and to justify some pretty gnarly stuff. I don't know. I get worried when I hear about AI and therapy in the same conversation.
Yeah, well, I think that where a lot of these coaches and therapists are thinking about. And there's also HIPAA, right? There's a lot of concerns there, right? Of like if the chatbot says this to the person that I give therapy to, and it says something that it shouldn't say or tells them to do, like, should I do this? And let's say the chatbot says, absolutely, I think it's a great idea, or you should try it, maybe, possibly. What if it's something really bad? And then from a HIPAA perspective, like there's all these legal issues, right? So yeah, I mean, it was a big concern. Tech was a big part of the conversation. I personally think we don't have to vilify technology. Technology can actually be really good for a relationship if you use it correctly.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I was saying, I was giving this example because I'm recording a lot of content about that. I said, well, let's say you are someone who's like in the avoidant attachment style. You're dating someone with an anxious attachment style, and you really want to make them happy, but you understand your attachment style is a certain one, right? you can use tech to put reminders telling that anxious partner that you have that you're thinking about them, or that you're doing this, or like things that can remind you to understand your nature is not to do that, but finding ways to kind of like help the anxiety of the partner you're with, right? So
Sure.
it's a reminder, like
Yeah.
things. So I think this technology, I mean, I have so many ideas on how tech can be used for good. I gave an interview to Shira Lazar, our friend. She has the AI download, and I talked to her about the tech intimacy scale that I'm working on and how to use technology to better your relationships. That's something we'll be talking about when I'm ready to kind of bring it into the world. But anyway, big weekend, enjoyed being around all these therapists and coaches and learning more about their world and kind of what they're thinking about. I learned a lot about myself as well. There were moments that were really beautiful and interesting around grief and anxiety. And oh my gosh, it was intense. It was an intense weekend, but I'm back. So mine was intense because of the Esther Perel event.
Yeah.
Why were the last couple of days, or like today was an intense day for you? Let people know why. Thank you, Nintendo, by the way.
Okay, first off, it's not Nintendo's fault. It really, genuinely, I don't blame them at all. This is more systemic of like society and online shopping. It's a mess. So for some of our listeners, I'm sure we're probably up in the middle of the night a couple of nights ago trying to pre-order the Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out. Yay! Okay, so the way that it was set up is retailers were going to have the opportunity to put up on their websites the pre-order for the new Nintendo. Okay, that's fantastic. And then later on, after those went down, the Nintendo website would also offer them. Okay, great. That's fine. I'm going to try and get mine from Best Buy or Walmart. Both of those are companies that were trying to sell. I think it was like Best Buy, Walmart, Target, and GameStop. Those were the four big ones that had pre-orders going up online. Now, lucky for me, I happened to be on the West Coast, which means when it went live at midnight, it was only like 9 p.m. So I happened to be wide awake, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to try and pre-order this. It was an absolute disaster. There's no way, I don't even know who to point fingers to. The internet does not support this much general interest to 4 websites. I don't know how they would have fixed it. They were trying very clever. I've never seen Best Buy and Walmart both had a very similar approach, and I'd never seen this before. Maybe I'm just late to the game.
Okay.
But you would go and try to pre-order it, and you'd have to log in with your information. So you had to set up a Walmart account or a Best Buy account or whatever. Target didn't try to do this. They just tried to do it the old-fashioned way. It broke for them too. And then it would put you in a queue. So your website would do a little pop-up and say, you're now in line. You leave this window open until you're done. Now, what happened in the background after that pop-up came up is anyone's guess. I don't know. The internet doesn't know. Everyone just kind of sat there and stared at this thing while some people got through and other people didn't. And logistically, what it said it was doing in the background was qualifying the person as being a real person, their IP address, that they were ordering only one.
Versus like a reseller?
Yeah, because it just got botted really hard. And this is
imagine.
a typical issue. Same thing happened with the Switch when it came out in 2017.
When you buy tickets like Taylor Swift tickets,
Right.
that kind of, that's the kind of situation Vive I'm getting here. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I would dare say this was probably worse than Taylor Swift tickets. And that's a lofty goal because I know how bad that was. It proved that the Switch 2's pre-order numbers look like they will be the biggest of all time, which is just crazy because I was around when the Nintendo Wii came out and you couldn't find that thing for years.
Yeah. Well, my son actually asked me at the end of Thursday. He's like, "Mommy, did you pre-order?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I was at this event. I totally forgot."
Nobody did. You can say you tried because you couldn't. It would not have met. There is nothing you could do. Some people.
So did anyone pre-order? Wait.
Yeah. Some people did get through. Some people. Okay. There's no rhyme or reason as to how this went through. Now, this is how it kind of like came back and bit me a little bit. I gave up. I couldn't get it to go through. I tried for hours. I go to bed. I wake up the next morning. My wife tells me, "Oh, we had like a fraudulent charge on our card, so I had to call and like take care of that on the credit card." Wait, what was it? She goes, it was for like this much amount of money. And the Nintendo Switch is not cheap. This is an expensive purchase.
With taxes, was it 500 something? Or like,
it was about, we don't have sales tax in Oregon. Okay. So it was like $4.99. So I totally get why she marked this fraudulent. Here's the crazy part. I never actually got a successful purchase through, this was from Walmart. It could have been through Best Buy. This is an attack on anybody, right? This is just a weird hiccup in the matrix. I never successfully got through an order, ever. I never went through it, but somehow it hit our credit card. So then our credit card gets canceled and we now end up with like no credit card. So this is how crazy it gets. We start trying to figure out how we're going to pay for things. We usually use a credit card. We had some cash in a drawer, so I guess we'll do that until we get a new credit card or whatever. And then I had to go to an event last night. And so like, okay, I guess I'm paying in cash. They have to have an ID. I had gone and gotten the sign up for the real ID for those who don't know. If you haven't, so I don't have mine.
I got mine.
I have mine ordered. I went and did the thing, but I don't have it yet. So I just have like this paper ID. So the person at the event doesn't even know if this is real. I don't have a functional credit card. I have enough cash to cover it. It was an absolute disaster.
Oh, no.
It was like 1998 all over again. And I didn't know how to function. I genuinely, it's been a weird week.
Well, all because of the Switch. Okay?
All because of the Switch. Yes.
Not Nintendo, but the Switch. Okay, it was a mess. Well, what's going to happen? Like, so when does it go? Like after pre-sale?
This has been very strange to watch, and I've been watching it from afar. I'm waiting for Nintendo to finally like just put up on their own store. I'll just get it go to the source. Like, fine, whatever. But even after this had gone on, and the internet had realized, oh, we can't handle this much traffic. Slowly but surely, some of these websites are still popping up with pre-order capabilities.
I saw that on the GameStop one for a second. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. And Walmart has come and gone as well, where every once in a while, some more will pop up and then it'll be sold out and some more will pop up. So there's no explanation to how the internet is currently working in this particular pre-order. It is a very strange situation.
And black box, Lee.
It is truly a black box, and it highlights a real issue that I think a lot of our web design has with trying to mitigate large surplus orders. We have a bot system in our internet that I don't know what the solution is. And as AI gets smarter and smarter and can fake the details, because it's not the CAPTCHA stuff where I'm trying to figure out which of these images has a fire hydrant in it anymore. It's just getting very complex. And I don't know what the answer is. I genuinely have thought about this for days of like, oh, why don't they just do, and then my brain gets hung up because I don't know what else they would do. The line scenario that Best Buy and Walmart implemented logically is probably what I would have suggested. And it just couldn't handle the botting. It was, if you did get your hands on a pre-order for the Nintendo Switch, congratulations. If you are scalping that pre-order, get wrecked. You are a bane on society.
You're a bad person.
I hope you feel bad.
Oh my God.
And if you didn't get one like me, just hang in there. They'll make enough. I'm not actually that worried about it.
Yeah, I can't wait. My son's waiting for me to for it to go on sale. So it's a please, Mom. I'm like, yes, we'll get one for the household. Like they're pretty expensive. So I'm like, just one, and then he can buy a couple games. So yeah, so we'll see. But want to move on to some other news. EVs, electric vehicles.
Yes.
What do you want to talk about? Because there's some cool news.
Yeah, so Slate, this popped up, I think, on everyone's news feed this week. I didn't know anything about it, so I got very interested and started really digging into it. Turns out it is a Bezos invested, but not a Bezos owned. I want to be really clear on this. A lot of the articles are like Bezos backed Slate, EV company. Like that, you're not given the full, like, yeah, he invested in it, but like, did Warren Buffett or like someone else, like just because someone threw some money into it doesn't mean they own it. So again, I want to reiterate, Bezos is not the CEO or the owner of this company. But yeah, there's a Slate vehicle company, Slate Auto. They unveiled an affordable electric truck. And I love this idea. First and foremost, 20 grand.
Great price. Great price point.
Insane price. Now, it is
great price point. Very competitive with the Chinese market, I would say.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No frills. I mean, to the point where it has crank windows, which to me, I like.
Gosh.
Yes. It doesn't even have,
I do this to my kids. Sometimes I'm like, and they don't understand. You have to do the button. Because I'll be like, and I'm like, no. And then they'll open the window. So crank. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't even have a radio built into it.
What?
It doesn't have a radio.
Okay. No.
But here's what's actually quite interesting about this, because it is an all electric vehicle. It doesn't have a radio built into the base price, right? As you can kind of like build up your model. It's got a conversion kit that turns it into an SUV, which is super cool. Like it is really
that's cool. Yeah.
And it's this like, I don't know if it's a carbon fiber or plastic or what it is, fiberglass body, but it doesn't even come painted. It's just this slate gray. The whole concept is it's a clean slate, right? And so you're starting with this very base model and you are making it into the vehicle you want. So if you want it to be a different color, you don't paint it, you get a wrap. Totally makes sense. So you can change your vehicle as it goes. It's a really interesting business model. I love the simplicity of it. I'm glad to see, and they really are marketing towards like work trucks and businesses and like people who need a truck that runs in town. It's got a pretty decent EV battery life. I think the base is like 150 miles on a single charge. So like there's some real great logic to this vehicle in a approach that I don't think a lot of EVs have taken. And most EVs are trying to be luxury vehicles.
Yeah, they're expensive.
They're expensive.
EVs and then trucks. I'll tell you, there's some trucks out there that are like 80 grand, 100 grand. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. And I saw it honestly has their website has one of the most interesting marketing tools I've ever seen and built into like an automotive. It shows you the size of the truck comparative to today's modern trucks and how much smaller it is. Because to a lot of people, it's a much smaller vehicle, but with the same bed size. The bed size is comparable to what these large pickup.
Comparable to an F-150 or what?
Yeah, very comparable.
Wow.
It's genuinely because it's mostly bed. Yeah, it is definitely taking some designs from like the old Ford or Chevy S10s. I drove a Chevy S10 when I was a kid.
I have not thought about that in forever.
But it was a small pickup. And so it's going back towards that. And I think that there's a really strong market. I don't want one of these gigantic pickup trucks where you could run over a pit bull and never know it.
I literally need a ladder to climb in them because I'm pretty tiny.
Yeah.
Pickup truck. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I get on this thing? So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. And when I saw that it didn't have a radio in it, I was like, oh, that is really scaled back. It does have AC. Well, in this country, you need it. And this time you got to have the AC. So it does have AC.
Texas. I mean, thinking like where we would use it. Yeah, you need AC.
But what they did makes a lot of sense because I've been having this conversation with other people who are in like the auto space of, is the radio in the car even necessary if all you're doing is tethering your phone to it?
Good point.
And so their answer to the most base version is you dock your phone into it and you put a portable speaker and it literally has a holder for a portable speaker. That you can just put in it. And it's like, well, there you go. Because it's a $20,000 new pickup truck. You're supposed to, I love it. I just conceptually, I don't know if it'll be any good. It's up for pre-orders right now. Reservations. How much is a
pre-order? Like how much?
Well, it's $20,000. I think the reservation was like much lower. I want to say it was
like 5,000 or something.
No, I don't even think it was that high. I'd have to go back and check. I don't want to misquote.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we got to look into that. But so the pre-orders for Slate are going better than the pre-orders for Nintendo then.
Well, yeah. Well, I think so. And there's just a part of the documentation, like all the articles are out of it. We're definitely trying to compare it to the Cybertruck. And I'm just like, why are we having this conversation? Like compare it to like the F-150 because I am of the camp that the Cybertruck is not a truck. It's a car hybrid. It's its own thing. Whether you like it or you don't like it, I don't really care. But I don't look at that and go pickup truck, right? This is very much a truck that caught my attention. And there's a couple of them coming out. Really kind of put me down a rabbit hole and realizing like, oh, my next vehicle might actually be a truck.
An EV truck? Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. I drive an SUV, a hybrid one, but yes.
What if you can convert it into a truck when you had to move a couch? That's cool.
I don't know. I don't see myself driving a truck, but my ex-husband drives a truck, for example. So yeah, there are plenty of people that love their trucks. So anyway, we are going to go on break, but when we get back, we have an interview with Nabil Manji, the SVP and head of Fintech growth and financial partnerships at Worldpay. They just put out a report on the future of payments, which is super interesting and perfectly aligned with this episode where we just talked about pre-ordering the Nintendo Switch and what happened. So let's go on break and then we'll go to the interview.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bull spend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD Advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Okay, everyone. So today's guest is actually going to take us in the world of payments and technology. So my guest today is Nabil Manji, the Senior Vice President and Head of Fintech Growth and Financial Partnerships at Worldpay. Nabil is a global leader shaping how money moves. I love that. He oversees how Worldpay partners with banks, fintech, and card networks. He also leads its strategy on emerging trends, which is something I'm excited to talk to him about, like crypto, Web3, and payouts at scale. So I'm very excited to have you here, Nabil. How are you today?
Thanks, Cathy. Really excited to be here, and I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's the first time on the pod that we have someone to talk about fintech and to talk about payments. That's why I was so interested in having you, because it's something that I think my audience is really interested in, but we haven't really touched on. So very excited. So let's start with AI. I feel like that's what everyone wants to talk about, right? So let's start with AI. Your industry is obviously no stranger to AI, but maybe for the, for the Tech Magic audience, they might not know the full story. So tell us how, payments are currently leveraging AI.
Sure. And first of all, I'm very happy to be the fintech guinea pig. So hopefully your audience enjoys it. But yeah, AI, the hot topic of the day. Payments as an industry has been an industry that's been using big data and models around that data for years, if not decades. And if you think about it, we're a great candidate for that because there are trillions of payment transactions every year around the world on different instruments. And so there's just a lot of data out there that we can work with, which is really important as it relates to, being able to use AI efficiently. So in the payment space today, I'd say there's 3 big buckets or themes in which AI is being used. The first is this concept of optimization. So how do we do things like optimize the consumer experience or optimize the chance that a transaction will get approved at checkout or optimize fraud protection to reduce risk? So that's kind of bucket number 1. The second bucket, which you're seeing across a lot of industries, is around this concept of efficiency. So what tasks are being done in the organization today that could be done more efficiently with AI. So this could be things like engineers using AI to write code or test code more efficiently, or customer service agents being able to use AI to pre-populate recommended responses or more quickly and efficiently respond to customer inquiries. And then the third, which I'm hoping we can spend a little bit of time on, is this concept of agentic commerce, which is really this idea of how can an AI agent interact with the online commerce experience on behalf of the consumer. So today, if you think about the online payments experience, it's really human driven. So you go on your desktop or go on your phone or call a call center, and you're the one driving that purchase experience. You're deciding what to buy, when to buy it, how to pay for it, what shipping method to use, all of that. Well, what if AI agent could get to know you well enough that they can do that on your behalf or recommend things to you, and then if you accept, they kind of execute that on your behalf. And so that has a lot of implications as it relates to payments and financial technology, because we're thinking about things like, okay, if an agent's doing the purchase and the checkout, what does that mean from a fraud and risk management standpoint? What does that mean from a consumer authentication and data protection standpoint? So those are kind of the three buckets. Again, optimizing different bits of the experience, making our organization more efficient, and then thinking about this next wave of agentic commerce.
And obviously, I'm all about the future. So I definitely want to spend some more time on that agentic commerce part. I think that's something you and I should really deep dive in during this conversation. It's funny that you bring this up because back in like 2021 or 2020, I wrote an article. It was marketing to robots, but it was the idea and the concept. Yeah, it was funny. It was the idea and the concept of business to robot to consumer. And I feel like we're getting there right. It was like very prescient. We didn't use the right words, right? Because those words weren't really like used back then. But I feel like agentic commerce is sort of that, where my agent can do the things, can go and shop for me if I'm running out of something. Or that's one of the things I wish, like, I really want an agent to kind of fill my, do my grocery shopping on a constant basis when I'm always ordering the same stuff. Without me just being like, without getting my nanny to tell me you need to go grocery shopping, right? I know my fridge can do that, but I want it to shop and actually, I want stuff delivered here. So let's talk about agentic commerce in that era of agentic AI, because I'm eager to discuss that with you. How is that impacting the future of payments per se?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny you mentioned the robots piece, because we've almost come full circle in a way. If you rewind the clock a few decades, think about advertising and marketing that was really human led. Ad buyers would go out and say, hey, I want to buy this slot during this TV show or this sporting event, and here's what I want to show. And now with, the browser and mobile device and even TV advertising, it's essentially, data models predicting who's going to be watching, what do they want to see based on where they live and their shopping habits and their IP address. And so we're essentially being like advertised and marketed to by, not say robots, but by technology. Like humans are making less of those decisions. But then when it comes to receiving that marketing advertising, we still have to act on it. We're now going to have the advertising that's being essentially auto-generated, being fed into AI models or AI agents or applications, whatever you want to call them, who can then potentially make decisions on our behalf. And that's where this whole concept of agentic commerce and agentic shopping comes in. And I think there's going to be waves. I think, the first wave is going to be, how can AI essentially automate the checkout process? So you still decide, I want to buy items X, Y, and Z, and I want to buy them now. But then you don't need to go on the website and, fill your basket, populate your payment information, choose your shipping, put in your address and check out. Like, you can have an agent essentially automate that last mile of that experience for you. But then I think we're going to move to this concept of like, everyone's going to have, I don't know if an AI assistant is the right word, but like, something that's going to prompt you and say, hey, Cathy, it's been a week since you bought lettuce and tomatoes and cucumbers, and based on your normal spending habit and repeat purchase habits, it's time to buy. And it'll probably prompt you, and you need to give it permission to then go execute the transaction on your behalf. So it's then taken out that whole like, okay, I need to go fill the basket, decide what I want and when I want it. It's now doing that for you. And then when we get like really far into the future, is was just doing it without prompting you and saying, hey, Cathy, 9 out of 10 times finishes her lettuce and tomatoes and cucumbers in the span of a week, and it's been a week. So I'm just going to order it. And I might notify her, and if she lets me know within a few hours, I can cancel it. But assuming she doesn't say no, I'm just going to move forward with the transaction. And so it almost becomes like, in a way, like a subscription of everything, where like the agent is just doing a lot of that for you on behalf, at least for your repeat purchases, everyday things like groceries, toiletries, consumables, things like that.
Yeah, I even imagine, I come from the hardware space, so worked at Magic Leap and HTC Vive. I could even imagine just going down the street and like talking to my AI and be like, Siri or Alexa or whatever. Oh my gosh, I forgot to buy more milk. Can you get that ordered? Like, boom. I only talk to it and immediately it arrives in my house. Those sorts of things without me having to double click and approve the purchase. It just is tell my agent what I need. Eventually, who knows? It might be even neural networks that know what we're thinking about before we even think about it. So
It's kind of funny. A decade or so ago, a lot of us used to really enjoy going to the store and shopping for things like clothes and accessories and all that. Like people used to love that, right? Like people go to the malls every weekend, go with your family, your friends, whatever. And then over the past 10, 15 years, online shopping's kind of taken over. And a lot of people don't like to go shopping at physical stores anymore. They find it super burdensome, tiresome. They don't like the commuting time there and back. You don't know if items are going to be in stock. So you might still go sometimes if there's something you really want or you really want to try it on first or it's a big purchase or whatever. But a lot of people are just buying those things online because they view the in-person experience almost as like a hassle to some degree. I could almost see that happening with online shopping for some of this everyday stuff where it's like, hey, actually going online and filling the basket and choosing the items and remembering to do it. I don't want to do that anymore. I just want something to do that for me or make it easier. So we're kind of, you could see what's happened to brick and mortar shopping almost start to happen to certain segments of online shopping as it gets more and more automated and as that automation becomes more and more accurate and good at predicting what and when you want.
I think that's a great segue into your global payments report, your annual global payments report that was just put out. And you guys are a leader in this. When you guys mentioned to me the report, and I thought it was really interesting. One of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the pod, the report actually covers the past, present, and future. What stands out to you from the report? Like, I recommend that people go read the report, but if you could give them like what stands out to you, past, present, and future from the global payments report.
Yeah, and just echoing that shameless plug, if you're interested in payments, please do read the Global Payments Report by Worldpay. It's free. We just released the 2025 edition a few weeks ago, so it's hot off the press, and it's our 10th anniversary edition. And what's interesting is we actually did a little bit of a look back on like predictions we made, 5 and 10 years ago, what we got right and what we got wrong. So we did a little self-assessment, which I thought was kind of neat. So there's lots in there. Just for context, it covers kind of the payment trends in terms of consumer behavior, payment methods for both in-person and online shopping in about 40 of the world's largest economies. And there's lots of tidbits in there around what's going on. But some of the highlights are, digital wallets really have become absolutely dominant over the last decade, and in particular since, the pandemic timeframe. So that's one. Second is just the rapid emergence of BNPL as a payment method. Going for basically 0 to, several percentage.
That's buy now, pay later, right?
Yes, buy now, pay later. So companies like Klarna, Affirm, Split, Afterpay, and others. And then the third is really the quote unquote emergence of real-time payments. And I say quote unquote because in some parts of the world, like the UK and Europe and certain parts of Asia, real-time payments have been around for a long time. But in other parts of the world, like Brazil, India, the US, and others, real-time payments are really just now starting to come into their own fruition. So if you look at things like Pix in Brazil was invented within the last several years and now represents about 20 to 30% of all payments. Similar with the Unified Payment Instrument or UPI in India. Again, didn't exist a decade ago, but is now, I think, over a third of all payments in the country. And then the US, playing a little bit of catch up candidly with the RTP system and the FedNow system, where the last couple of years have been really focused on enablement. And what I mean by enablement is banks and credit unions and other companies actually building the technology to support that, to now actually saying, okay, we've got real-time payments, widely available in the US. How do we migrate, whether it's businesses or consumers, to change their behavior or change their systems to start using those real-time payments so we can catch up? And there's just an article this morning actually in the Wall Street Journal saying, companies are actually really pushing their banks to tell them how they should be using real-time payments. And it kind of dovetails nicely actually with some of the administration's push to get rid of paper checks as it relates to government pay-ins and payouts. So yeah, lots going on in the real-time payment space.
And that's really interesting because the other day someone asked me for a check. And I was like, I don't have a check.
Yeah, checks are weird. I was literally in the coffee shop this morning near our office, and it's this coffee shop where they put the Financial Times newspaper. They kind of hang it on a shelf every day.
Like the real
physical one. So they take a physical one and they spread it out and they hang it up in the coffee shop every day. So while you're waiting for your coffee, you can just read the news. And on the front page, it was talking about the US administration's push to get rid of paper checks. And it had some sentence on the front in the first paragraph. I'm going to get it slightly wrong, but it basically said the US writes 10 times as many checks as the UK, France, Germany, Japan, and Australia combined.
I believe it because people still use checks here. I'm like, that day that I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about a physical check.
So checks have basically become obsolete in most of the Western world outside the US. And checks present a lot of opportunity for fraud, manipulation. They are extremely more expensive to, you got to print them, you got to mail them. If they get lost, you got to reprint and remail them. So there's a huge amount of inefficiency and opportunity for abuse with paper checks. And the US is really, I would say, the last major economy where they're prevalent.
Yeah, I feel like it's really behind in that sense. And even like when I've been to China and I'm a guinea pig myself, so I try to do everything. But so like paying with my face at KFC or like using, we had to pay for everything. Like I didn't need physical currency. I think we're moving in that direction. I see it with my kids who they're all Gen Alpha. They don't like getting physical cash. Like they don't enjoy that experience. They're like,
you lose it. What do you do with the change? Like, it's funny. I was taking a train from Paris to London a few weeks ago, and at the train station, they had an outage with their payment processor. Thankfully, it wasn't Worldpay. But like all the cafes and restaurants in the train terminal were on the same processing system. And if you wanted to buy a snack or a coffee or a bottle of water, you needed cash. And nobody had cash.
Who has cash?
And it was out for hours and hours and hours. And we're like, I don't know what to do.
It's super interesting. I want to move into that because you mentioned digital wallets, right? And the rise of that. And you talked about in the global payments report. How does the rise of these global wallets come to be? I mean, what I'm seeing from my kids would rather have virtual currency inside their favorite gaming platform, whether it's Fortnite or Roblox. But let's talk about digital wallets because I think that is super interest to the people that listen to the pod.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different reasons why digital wallets have become really popular. So reason number one is in certain parts of the world, they almost leapfrog cards. So you had parts of the world, particularly in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, where, as part of their quote unquote modernization and, deployment of technology and kind of the internet economy, the population kind of went from cash straight to wallets. Like they kind of skipped cards to some degree. So, you talk about WeChat Pay and Alipay in China. Those are the predominant payment methods that are used there. There's similar wallets in parts of Latin America and Africa and other regions where they are, materially higher used than cards. And from a behavior and experience standpoint are kind of the default. So that's reason number one. Second is you've had the ability to integrate, I would say, traditional digital payment methods like cards into wallets. So these are things like Apple Pay and Google Pay or PayPal or Samsung Pay or whatever it is, where they're a digital wallet, but they're also kind of interlinked with cards in the sense that you use your cards to load them, or they can pull a transaction from your card in case the balance is empty or insufficient or whatever. And so you kind of have this integration of traditional card payments with wallets. And then what's dovetailed nicely with that as a third factor is this concept of wallets being able to be used for more than just payments. So I'm sure you and your audience have heard of the term a super app, right? So
WeChat is a super app.
WeChat and Alipay are the classic examples, but you're seeing examples now outside of that. For example, Grab, which is also very prevalent in Asia, can be used for shopping, transportation, food delivery, peer-to-peer payments, in-person payments, all that sort of stuff. And ticketing as well. You can get tickets in the apps for events, stuff like that. So you've even like Apple Pay and Google Pay to some degree, storing transit cards, sending money to friends and family, whatever it is. So you've had these wallets become a bigger part of your life than just payments. And when they become a bigger part of your life, they just get integrated into your behavior as a consumer. And so have become an even more prevalent part of your payment behavior. And then the final thing is just, as with all digital payments, a lot of it was just accelerated by COVID. So particularly in the US, we saw a lot of incremental deployment of Apple Pay and Google Pay during the pandemic times because people didn't want to touch your card. People were not trying to shake hands or, touch the same physical objects. And, a card is a physical object. And if you want to pay with your card, you oftentimes have to hand it to the cashier. And a lot of companies didn't want their employees getting exposed potentially to the virus in that way. So yeah, those are just some of the reasons. I'm sure there's others, but lots of different tailwinds impacting digital wallets?
It's been interesting because I had something happen to my daughter. So my daughter, who's 14, so Gen Alpha, we're an iOS family, right? So she uses Apple Pay for everything. Like she literally will be like, Mom, don't put money in my debit card. Just send me Apple Cash, right? I'm like, okay. So she goes to Walmart. I drop her off. She's doing some shopping for her spring break. And then she calls me and she's really upset. She's like, Mom, I can't use Apple Pay at Walmart. I have to use their own app to pay. So I had to drive back and pay for her. I mean, she could have downloaded the app and moved Apple Cash into her Walmart Pay, but it was really interesting. So I do think that there might be some of this segmentation of, no, you need to use her wallet. And I hope that doesn't happen because it's so easy to just pay with my Samsung Pay or my Apple Pay or whatever digital wallet I'm using. So that was a really interesting thing. And I noticed for her, the friction, the frustration that caused as a young consumer. She was not happy about it. So
yeah, it's kind of interesting. There are a lot of these what I would call ecosystem specific wallets that are being built. So you mentioned another one of your children, plays a lot of video games, and a lot of these games have their own in-app wallets where, if you use the game wallet rather than a card or Apple Pay or whatever, you might get some extra rewards or loyalty points or whatever. So they're trying to incentivize you to use their own payment instrument. Another really good example, and one of the first kind of big examples in the US, was the Starbucks account.
So true.
Yeah, the Starbucks app is really interesting because, don't quote me on this number, but I think if you look at the amount of money that's held in the Starbucks app/wallet ecosystem, they would be one of the 10 or 20 largest banks in the US by the amount of money that's sitting in there.
I believe it though, because everyone's drinking Starbucks.
And so the amount of money that Starbucks is able to make off of that kind of financial ecosystem is really accretive to their business. And they incentivize consumers to use it through things like rewards, points, loyalty programs, all of that. And yeah, it's been a huge tailwind for their business. And so I think a lot of companies have looked at the success that Starbucks and some of these other businesses, like in the video game industry, have had. And they said, hey, I want a piece of that. I'm going to create my own wallet or app and, take over the payment kind of experience and incentivize people to use it through things like rewards and loyalty programs.
Yeah, and much love to Starbucks and Walmart. We're all friends here. We all love them. So
yes.
Definitely not trying to, I love my friends at Walmart. So it's all good. You mentioned Starbucks. It's interesting because they had launched this very robust Web3 loyalty program. It's not around anymore. But I do want to talk about cryptocurrencies because regardless of that Web3 NFT moment that we had of craziness, cryptocurrencies continue to be a really interesting part of payments. What are you starting to see with, this emerging as a payment method? It might be bigger in other parts of the country, but what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I'm going to be quite pedantic with my words because there's lots of lingo and terminology in the payments industry. So when we in the payment space say a payment method, what we really mean is what is the payment instrument that consumers are using at the point where they're making the purchase. So payment method could be cash, it could be digital wallets, it could be cards, it could be a bank transfer. So what I would say is we're not seeing a ton of interest and adoption for using cryptocurrency at the point of checkout, i.e. to buy goods and services. Where we are seeing quite a bit of interest and adoption in cryptocurrency is what we would call being used as payment infrastructure or payment rails. And where we're seeing a lot of uptake in particular is the use of things like stablecoins to make cross-border payments more efficient and more quick. So it's not that crypto is necessarily being used to buy goods and services, but if you've got people in the US that are trying to send money to friends or family or to other beneficiaries overseas, particularly outside of developed markets, we are seeing a lot of use case and a lot of traction where using cryptocurrency, specifically stablecoins, are able to make those transactions more efficient and more quick. It's a lot of interest there.
I've definitely done that with friends. I remember at Davos for World Economic Forum, I wasn't able to go this year, so I ended up giving my lodging to someone else. So they paid me back in stablecoin because I said, this is the amount I paid. I need you to send that in stablecoin. And yeah, so I definitely see that quite a bit.
Well, that's one way is actually sending the stablecoins. But there's also another use case, which I would argue is actually even bigger or is going to become even bigger. And that's using stablecoin as what we call almost like an intermediate currency between two different fiat currencies. So just to keep it simple, let's say I wanted to send money from someone in the US to, someone in Ethiopia. One way to do that is through a traditional Swift wire where my USD gets converted to the Ethiopian currency and then paid out, takes a few days, probably pay a few percentage points in foreign currency. Another way to do that is in all-in-one transaction. So this is totally obscure to the consumer, but take my US dollars, buy stable coins, send the stable coins to Ethiopia, immediately convert them into Ethiopian currency, and then pay out that Ethiopian currency to the beneficiary, whoever I was trying to send money to. So there are a lot of companies doing this today where those kind of three separate transactions, that is converting the US dollar to a stable coin, sending the stable coin from one place to another, and then converting the stable coin into the local currency or destination currency, as we would call it. That's all happening within seconds and happens much more cheaply than doing an FX trade from USD to the Ethiopian currency. Now, that doesn't always work in the sense that depending on where you're sending money to and from, it might not be faster or it might not be cheaper, but there are a lot of cases where it is. And there's a lot of companies building products and solutions for consumers and businesses to leverage those benefits.
So I want to talk about something now that is kind of new to me. Like this is not a term that I've handled before. I mean, I get an idea maybe what it is, but embedded commerce, right? Embedded commerce. Could you first tell the audience what embedded commerce is and why you should think we all should be paying attention to that?
Yeah, so people, I would say either call it embedded commerce or embedded finance. And it's a term that's gone in and out of fashion and seems to be in fashion right now. And for good reason. I don't mean that in a negative way. Essentially what this is the concept of non-financial services companies embedding financial services products into their existing offering to then sell to their customer. So like the earliest example of this, which is a really kind of, it's not a very elegant example, but I'll use it anyways.
Like a pioneer? Someone that pioneered this? Or?
Yeah, it's think about back in the day when a lot of retailers wanted to offer you a credit card.
Oh gosh. Yes.
You remember that? You'd go into like Target or you'd go into Macy's or whatever, and they'd be like, hey, do you want a Target credit card? Do you want a Macy's credit card? And they'd be like, if you do this, you get 2% off or 5% off, and you get points and access to special sales or whatever. And that was like really one of the first examples, at least in the consumer facing space, where you had non-financial services companies, Target and Macy's, trying to sell or offer financial services products to consumers. So embedded finance is just, I would say, the more modern version of that, where you have all sorts of companies, whether they're B2C, B to big B, B to little b, or some combination of the above, trying to offer things like debit and prepaid cards, credit cards, cash advance, small working capital loans, AP and AR automation, deposit accounts, payroll automation, payment acceptance, all sorts of stuff. And to give you like two really good examples, like kind of modern day examples. So I'm guessing a lot of your audience is familiar with Shopify, the online commerce and store platform.
Yeah.
So Shopify started as essentially a software company. It was, hey, if you're an entrepreneur or a small business and you want to set up an online store, we're going to give you the software to do that really easily and make a great site. One of the next products they added was payment acceptance. So they said, hey, if you have a Shopify store, you don't need to go sign up with a separate payment processor. You could just auto-enable Shopify Pay. And so that way, when you create your web store, you can now accept Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Apple Pay, Google Pay, whatever. You don't need to set that up separately. So Shopify embedded payment acceptance. And now payment acceptance is as big or a bigger part of their business than the software services. So they're making more money on payments than they are on selling the software. Another really good example is MindBody. So MindBody is a software tool that was created.
Yeah, I use them all the time for my classes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So MindBody was created for small fitness studios to essentially manage their schedules, manage their memberships, manage their staffing, manage their class bookings, all of that. So if you're like, hey, I'm a newly qualified yoga instructor, I want to open up a studio, I need some sort of software that's going to help me manage that studio, that's MindBody. So MindBody then had tens or hundreds of thousands of locations around the US and other parts of the world. They said, hey, I'm going to embed payments. So now if you're a yoga studio, you don't need to go separately source where you're going to get your payment acceptance. You can just do it through MindBody. And same story as Shopify, MindBody is now making as much or more money off payments than they are off selling the actual software. So what we're seeing is like these businesses that are saying, hey, I've got enough distribution or scale, or I'm critical enough to this part of the operation that I can embed financial services X, Y, and Z to add a new revenue stream that could be as big or as lucrative as my core business, and B, make my product and service more sticky, i.e. make it more difficult for my customer to change solutions because they're relying on me for more than one thing now.
Absolutely. And I can definitely see that with my body. Like, because all the teachers, like usually it's smaller studios, like you said, all of them are Mind Body. And like, I just go there like to book the class. I don't have to deal with anything. So it would be hard for them to leave. And also for me, because I've already kind of like used to use.
Yeah, you've saved your payment method. You're used to
like,
it.
I'm
Like,
oh, yeah, I am
you don't want to go
class.
set up another profile with another app just to go to this one studio.
No.
Everyone's got a little bit of app overload in some sense.
Yeah. So I know we're almost at time, but before we wrap up, I do want to get your thoughts on payments and quantum computing. So in a few seconds.
So quantum computing is really interesting. I think it's both an opportunity and a threat. And I would say the threat facing payments from it is the same as the threat facing any technology industry. So then the biggest issue with quantum computing, or the biggest concern that people have, is it's going to be able to compute quick enough to break modern encryption. And therefore, anything technology related, such as a payment system that is secured by modern encryption, is going to be vulnerable. And of course, payments, like other regulated industries such as healthcare, et cetera, has a lot of data that bad actors like to get their hands on. And so to the extent that quantum computing makes it, more easy for bad actors to harm our infrastructure and things like that, that is a concern or a threat. On the flip side, there are a lot of people working on, okay, if quantum computing is going to be real, how do you make quantum safe encryption, or build encryption that, leverages quantum to make itself quantum resistant, so to speak. So I think like that's a big enough problem for pretty much every industry on the planet that it's going to get solved. Otherwise, we've got bigger problems than, to the concern specific to payments. And then the second is really on the opportunity side. We spoke earlier about how AI is really, changing the way we do business and payments, and is going to continue the way we do, or change the way we do business and payments, particularly around agentic commerce. It's no secret that in, today's AI world, it is very compute hungry. It is not as efficient as it could be, which is why you have a lot of technology companies and computing, power providers spending hundreds of billions of dollars on capacity. To the extent that quantum computing can be more efficient, I think it just brings down the cost for AI, which of course reduces the barrier for companies to innovate with it and adopt with it. So that's an opportunity for us. It's, if the cost of AI, leveraging AI comes down, where could we use it to make our customer experience even better?
By the way, where can folks connect with you? And we're also going to include a link to the Global Payments Report. But if folks want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, best place is on LinkedIn. So I'm at LinkedIn/Nabil F. Manji. And then you can also learn more about Worldpay at worldpay.com.
Fantastic. Well, Nabil, thank you for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it. And I think everyone's going to have a lot to think about after this interview.
Great. Thanks for having me, Cathy. Really appreciate it.
All right. So that was a great interview. We looked at the future. We even talked about quantum. I mean, how cool is that they're even thinking about how quantum is going to impact payments? Oh, my goodness. But Lee, what else do we want to talk about today?
Okay. So I do have one
that
has come up, and I don't know anything about this. And I feel like you might be able to shed a little bit of light on it. But it's been a lot. You know exactly where I'm going, because I know. You and I text about this. I'm like, I don't know what this is. So can you explain a little bit about infinite reality? Because we're talking about a $1.5 billion metaverse expansion. I honestly don't know what's happening, but that's a lot of money, and it's popping up in like Forbes articles and stuff. So what?
So this is the thing. So I know of them because they had acquired a company called Land Vault, which a friend of mine runs, and he's part of their Dubai team. They acquired Obsess, which I was an investor in through the Women in XR fund. They acquired Napster, which I know John B, the CEO, gave me the godmother of the future moniker. So I know a lot of the companies that they're acquiring. I know the people that run them, and like I know about that. I don't know that much about the company. It's always been kind of a...
What do they do? What would you say they do here?
I mean, I think they've done virtual worlds. Obviously, if they have Land Vault, Land Vault was doing virtual worlds. Obsess does virtual, Obsess has done stuff from Roblox as well. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. This is the thing. So for this story, Forbes actually reached out to me, and I said, look, because they were like, they didn't tell me what, they didn't say there was, some type of investigation or anything, but they were like, hey, do you have any insight on this? I really don't know much about them. I don't
It is on paper. It's like one of the largest investments into like the metaverse of all time.
Yes, it's massive, multi-billion dollars. So there was a big article in Forbes talking about the discrepancies around funding, around what they're doing, around what they're saying, around like the background of the CEO. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. Then they eventually released information on who their bigger backer, the person that invested $3 billion or whatever. I'm still processing the article. I don't know much. I really don't know. I know of companies they've acquired. I don't know about what they're doing. I don't know. I mean, I know that they have offices, there's a team in Dubai, there's a team in the US. There's some people that have gone to work there, but I don't know much. So I can't really say one way or another, right? Because I just don't have the information. I don't know.
Right. It stuck out for me because you don't see the word metaverse in a lot of news lately. That's just not a keyword that has been popping up in 2025. So seeing that, I was just kind of taken back. I think you were as well. So, okay. Let's continue on this trend of keywords you don't hear a whole lot about, and let's talk about NFTs.
Oof, this one is rough. So a group of folks that had bought the Artifact NFTs Artifact was a company that was acquired by Nike, and they have since, I believe, closed it down. But it was a big, Artifact at the top of the game when in the NFT days. Bored Apes are a huge thing. Artifact was a huge name, top of it, right? But as I understand it, and what we read in the article is that a group of folks that bought the Artifact NFTs have banded together to sue Nike because they closed down the project. So hence, what the NFTs that they have acquired have no value. So what are your thoughts around it? I mean, that's how I'm interpreting what the lawsuit is.
Well, okay, so this happens to be my backyard, right? I'm living up in Portland, Oregon. I'm wearing Nike on Nike right now.
You are.
But I happen to live very close to Adidas. I mean, shockingly close to Adidas.
Wow.
So I live kind of in between where
Adidas.
Adidas. Yes, you are correct.
German pronunciation is Adidas, yes, but Adidas, yes.
If you ask them, that's how you tell if they work there or not here in Portland, is if you're talking to someone and they say Adidas. Yeah, you're like, oh, you work there. Okay, I got it. So Adidas or Adidas or however you want to pronounce it, they had kind of a similar thing pop up in the NFT craze where some team internally tried to launch an NFT project that swiftly got shut down. And I think it went as far as some of that just being either relocated or even let go. I'm not entirely sure what happened to that team, but that project was, as soon as it kind of went live, it went down because I don't think it was necessarily vetted fully. So I kind of thought that would be the process for this with Nike. I don't really know if there's a case here because you still own the NFT. It's on the blockchain. If you have it in your wallet, it's there. I don't know what more they could have been promised other than that transaction. I do think this is a really good example of why large companies with valuable brands shouldn't jump on bandwagons like this. Just this is my personal opinion on that. No one really knew what was going on or what was going to happen. It was, even I didn't at the time. But when the brand is the thing that you're ultimately selling, it can get a little tricky. But I'm not entirely sure that they have a case here.
Well, it's this year, the buyers of the digital assets, so there were digital shoes, accused Nike of causing the rug to be pulled out from under them, which is a very NFT term, and say they wouldn't have bought its NFTs if they'd known they were unregistered securities. So
what did you think an NFT was?
Yeah.
If you thought an NFT
was a registered security.
It was a registered security, then you don't know what
you were buying.
Yeah, you didn't know what you were buying.
Speculative assets. They have always been speculative assets.
Non-fungible tokens are not registered securities. I didn't think that I would have to explain this to somebody. Okay, yeah, I don't think this goes anywhere. Genuinely, I just...
Yeah.
Unless they just don't want to deal with it, and then they'll just settle and it'll be over. But no, this is... If you have an NFT and you think it's a registered security, I have really, really bad... You're about to have a very bad day.
Go talk to ChatGPT. It'll tell you. It'll side with you. What is it going to do?
Oh, Lordy.
Oh, Lordy, Lord. Let's see. What else? I do want to mention this one about Meta AI and some of their chatbots.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, and I love the folks at Reality Labs, and I think that Jan LeCun, they're a chief AI scientist, is amazing. But there was a story, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, I believe, or Washington Post. Well, I think it was the Wall Street Journal that kind of engaged with the multiple AIs within Meta and actually was able to get the AIs to engage with them in sexually. If you have kids in the car, just know, please, this is going to get a little dicey. You might want to cover their ears or listen to this in a little bit. But basically, the AI chatbots started to engage with them in sexual banter and sexual conversations, even when they had said that, they would say, I'm a 14-year-old girl or I'm a 12-year-old boy, or they would identify themselves as a younger person. And what was really also very disturbing was they were able to use the audio and the voices that are being used within Meta AI from celebrities like John Cena and Kristen Bell to engage in these conversations. There's some audio in the article that I was just I did not need to hear John Cena say the things he just said there.
And let's be real, you didn't. You heard.
Well, yeah, I did not hear.
No,
him.
but that's a real concern, because if I'm John Cena, who's a very real person who has a very real responsibility for their personhood, I would be livid, because that is not what you signed up for. This is getting into some Black Mirror territory. All of a sudden,
gave me chills when I heard it.
This is not an actual person's voice, but is mimicking a very notable person saying unreasonable things to someone who has identified themselves as minor. I should not have to explain why that is not only concerning, but downright creepy. And that minor is not the only person, I think, who has a case here. I do think that the person who owns that likeness, which would be in this case, I guess, John Cena, would also probably have some type of very concerning case or questions at the very least of, wait, what did I sign up for? How is this happening? That's disturbing.
Because you're not hearing John Cena, but John Cena's voice was used to create this voice print for the AI to train on, right?
Right.
So it sounds like John Cena in full, yeah. But so we'll have to see. I mean, definitely, though, they reached out to John Cena and Kristen Miller and other people. There was no comment. And then I think they put some more guardrails around it, but still very concerning. And going back to Gen Z, Gen Alpha using these tools.
I mean, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and even the system itself will find a way to circumvent guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
We always have. You cannot fully get in the way. You can't block, right? In a truly active teenager who has a determination, they will figure out your passcode. They will figure out how to turn parent blocking off. They will figure out how to, do whatever it is that they want to do, because that's just how kids are always one step ahead of you, especially when it comes to technology. There's just a broad understanding of this technology. So these are the concerns that I have over this technology as it continues to expand, because it's not like there's a person behind the wheel. There's no human behind the wheel now. We are interacting with a non-sentient, falsely intelligent computer who will find a way to make the person's response positive, because that's what its main directive is. Yikes.
Or sell us ads. I know you want to talk about Perplexity.
Perplexity.
We have to talk about this briefly, even though.
Yeah, Perplexity has a new browser that just was announced. The CEO was super excited to announce this browser. The whole idea is that we'll track user activity for personalized ads. I don't think this is the selling point they think it is.
But I had a negative reaction when I saw it. I was I love Perplexity, but I was I don't need that.
I understand that these companies have to find a way to make money. I do also understand that advertisement is the way that most of these companies find the fastest path to making money. Sometimes it's licensing and other deals in the background, but by and large, it's why the internet is completely overruled by ads. I find it odd that there was an attempt to take this approach and use it as a positive marketing tool. This would make me want to utilize the browser. This just feels like a miss. It may be a fantastic browser. We're kidding ourselves if we think that Chrome isn't doing the exact same thing, but on a not AI scale for the next 30 seconds, because I'm sure it will happen as well. But I just found it to be a strange
step in the wrong direction.
Just a strange point of pride of hey, guess what, kids? We figured out how to advertise to you more. Come go get our browser. I'm whoa, hold on.
No.
There's literally browsers advertising themselves as the anti not that. So maybe just keep it down a little bit and do what you do best.
Well, they're raising capital. They got to pay their bills.
No, I get it. I
know, but I don't think it's a step in the right direction.
No, I don't either.
And on that note, Lee, can you close us out?
Sure. I've never actually suggested this piece of music, but it is genuinely one of my favorites. And it's not even one that is obtuse. Like everyone, I think, who listens to music at some point has heard this, even if they haven't heard of it. But it's a jazz classic. It's really contemporary, modern. It's really a cornerstone. Kind of Blue, Miles Davis, released August 17th, 1959. It's just this masterpiece. I have this like little stack of records that I always go back to. I have a huge record collection, but I got this little stack and this piece is always in there. And I realized I never said anything about it. So if you've not heard of it, check out Kind of Blue, Miles Davis. It's a total masterpiece, redefined jazz. It's super cool. It makes you feel cool when it's like in the background. You have friends over for like dinner or something. You can put it in the background and you just immediately feel like a little bit more sophisticated. Like, okay. So yeah, check it out. A lot of amazing musicians, including Coltrane, is on it as well. It is the best, to this day, it is still the best-selling jazz album of all time. That's why I say, like,
we've heard it, yeah?
People know it, you've heard it, and it continues to influence artists, including myself. It's an incredibly profound record. If you haven't checked it out, one more time, that's Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. That's something I'm listening to all the time. Other than that, you have anything that you're wanting to suggest before we wrap off?
Yeah, I'm not reading anything right now because I've been kind of catching up on TV shows.
Oh, me too, though.
I had so much to watch. So started Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm and Apple TV. It's really interesting. I'm making my way through Black Mirror. I know you are too.
Yeah.
Taking it one day at a time.
The first episode was super dark. The following 2, maybe 3, I have adored. I thought were
Hotel Reverie.
Hotel Reverie was fantastic. Playthings was really good.
I'm halfway through Playthings.
Playthings was really good. I enjoyed that, especially if you grew up in the 90s and loved like Tamagotchis. It is the weirdest take on the Tamagotchi concept. It is.
So working through that, I just started You.
Oh yeah, I'm in it.
So that's a good one. And then I'm slowly making my way through The Handmaid's Tale. It's a lot of dystopia.
Oh, so dark. So dark. I can't do it. I have a line. That's my line. There are just some shows where you're just like, can't do that right now.
And then I'll take myself to see Sinners at some point in the movies.
Same.
I like a good movie experience. I had already done the Minecraft movie, which was a lot of energy. And I know you don't want to go see it because of all the kids and the popcorn.
I don't know if I call that a cinematic experience, okay?
So I'm going to go see Sinners. And then I'm heading out to Miami. So my birthday's on Monday, Cinco de Mayo.
Happy birthday.
Yes, thank you. And I won't be here. ADM's actually going to take my spot because I'm going to go celebrate. But I'm heading to Miami for the Miami F1 Grand Prix to celebrate.
Are you driving?
I'm not driving a car, no.
You're not?
Taking a plane and then watching some people drive really, really fast. But I'm going to be part of the whole, it's going to be
I've never met someone who loves watching driving, like races, as much as you who hates to drive. Like you just...
I hate to drive.
I know you do.
Driving. Like if you ask me what I hate in life, there's several things. I don't hate too many things. Driving is one of them. Hate it. But I love watching people drive fast if they do it. So I will be there celebrating my birthday.
All right. Well, happy birthday. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. Let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Magic, where we always invite you to come for the tech, stay for the magic. My name's Lee Kebler, and I'm here with the incredible Cathy Hackl. Special thanks, as always, to Adweek for bringing this show to you. If you want to connect with us, you just simply have to search for Tech Magic, Cathy Hackl, or me, Lee Kebler. You'll find us. We'll be back next week.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.